It was a cool Wednesday morning, and Brig and V restaurant was operating as usual. The manager, smartly dressed in a grey suit, had just returned from his routine inspections. He was about to sit down in his office when he noticed an unusual customer entering the dining hall. The man's MAHA hat immediately caught his attention. The manager's face tightened as he muttered to himself, "Trouble has arrived." It was RFK Jr. The manager knew him well. He had once liked RFK Jr., but since RFK Jr. had changed his political affiliation, the manager had grown to dislike him. Now, he saw a chance to humiliate him. The manager quickly left his office. But he didn't know that RFK Jr. had recently purchased the restaurant and was now his new boss, though the official announcement had yet to be made. "Excuse me, sir," the manager said firmly, his eyebrows furrowed to show hostility. RFK Jr. calmly extended his hand for a handshake, but the manager ignored him. Bobby swallowed his embarrassment and asked, "Is there a problem with me being here? You seem upset by my presence." "Your type is not welcome here," the manager replied. "But if you insist on eating here, I advise you to remove your hat." By now, all eyes were on them. Some customers had stopped eating, their attention fixed on the scene. The staff continued their duties, placing food on tables, though their curiosity was evident. None dared to show they were distracted, knowing the manager's strict and unforgiving nature. Calmly, RFK Jr. replied, looking firmly into the manager's eyes, "I will not remove the hat. You have no right to make me remove it. It is making my customers uncomfortable, and I demand that you take it off or—" the manager gestured toward the door. "Leave." RFK Jr. remained composed. "I am not here to eat or cause any trouble. I just want to take a look at the facility. I promise I won't cause a scene." The manager retorted, "Your presence alone is causing enough trouble. Please leave." RFK Jr. glanced around. "But I don't see anyone complaining, except you." "Security!" the manager shouted. Two hefty men in uniforms appeared and approached RFK Jr. ready to escort him out. RFK Jr. hesitated, then turned to the manager. "Today, you are the one giving the orders. You don't know who will be giving them tomorrow." The manager scoffed. "I'll take my chances. I don't care what position you hold or might hold in the future. But for now, leave my facility." Without waiting for the security guards to act, RFK Jr. walked out of the building with a steady, confident stride and a faint smile on his face. Before stepping into his car, he turned to the guards. "Are you being treated well here?" The guards exchanged nervous glances, noticing the manager still watching through the glass door. One of them responded cautiously, "Sir, we appreciate your concern, but we value our jobs. Please, just leave." RFK Jr. gave them a small nod, climbed into his car, and drove away. Back inside the building, the manager felt triumphant. He reveled in the thought that he had just taught one of his political enemies a lesson. "Anyone wearing a MAGA or MAHA hat," he muttered to himself, "is not welcome in my territory." The sense of power made him feel almost invincible. He eagerly looked forward to the evening, imagining himself at the bar, bragging to his friends about how he had put RFK Jr. in his place. But the manager was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing above his head, ready to strike. Meanwhile, RFK Jr., seated calmly in his car, wasted no time. He scheduled a meeting with his chemist and food technologist, instructing them to visit the restaurant the next day. Their task was clear: collect samples of every dish served at Brig and V and analyze them for harmful ingredients. RFK Jr.'s motive for purchasing the restaurant was not to make a profit. He had a greater mission: to gain first-hand data on what typical restaurants were serving to the American public. He reasoned that if he revealed his identity as the new owner, the staff might change their practices, which could skew the food's true composition. For now, his identity remained a secret, and his plan was in motion. The next day, the restaurant bustled with its usual rhythm. The manager arrived very early, not out of loyalty, but to assert his authority and torment the staff. He enjoyed daring anyone to come in late. As he stepped into the kitchen, he was greeted by the chaotic yet mesmerizing sights and sounds of the morning prep. Large pots simmered on the stoves, their lids rattling as steam escaped. Deep fryers hissed loudly as pieces of meat and fish sizzled in hot oil, sending a mouth-watering aroma into the air. The counters were covered with neatly arranged ingredients, bowls of chopped onions, vibrant green peppers, and freshly diced tomatoes. Stainless steel utensils gleamed under the overhead lights, while the hum of exhaust fans added to the symphony of activity. The cooks moved quickly, their hands a blur as they flipped, stirred, and seasoned. Some worked at the chopping boards, their knives rhythmically hitting the surfaces, while others monitored the bubbling pots to ensure nothing boiled over. The heat of the kitchen was intense, with beads of sweat forming on everyone's foreheads, but the energy remained high. But the manager's eyes, sharp and critical, darted around. He pointed out every mistake he could find, barking orders and scolding the cooks at every turn. "Too much oil in that pan," he shouted. "Who cuts onions like this? Fix it." His loud voice dominated the kitchen, creating tension among the staff. Satisfied with his tirade, he stormed out into the dining hall. The cleaners had polished the tables, and the coverings were neatly spread, but the manager still found faults. He inspected the tablecloths one by one, his expression growing darker. "Don't you have eyes?" he snapped. "This one has a stain. Change it." His harsh words weren't directed at anyone in particular, but the staff scrambled to comply, avoiding his glare. Once he was satisfied with the dining area, he returned to his office. By mid-morning, the restaurant was buzzing with activity. Customers began pouring in, filling the dining hall with chatter and the clinking of cutlery. Around 10 a.m., the manager noticed something unusual. The workers had stopped what they were doing and were staring at the door. Curious, he left his office to investigate. As he stepped out, the staff quickly returned to their duties, pretending nothing had happened. The manager's eyes landed on the source of their distraction. The restaurant's former owner was walking toward the building, and RFK Jr. was beside him. The manager's heart skipped a beat. Panic set in as he assumed RFK Jr. had reported him to the former owner. The two men stepped inside, and the manager rushed forward, bowing deeply to the former owner. His smile wavered as he also bowed awkwardly to RFK Jr., guilt clearly etched on his face. "Good morning, sir." The manager greeted them both, forcing a polite smile. RFK Jr. returned the greeting and extended a handshake. This time, the manager accepted it eagerly, even bowing slightly as he did so. The former owner broke the tension. "We need to have an emergency meeting. All the key staff are required in the conference room," he said. The manager nodded quickly. He glanced around as most of the staff left their posts to join the meeting, leaving only a few to attend to the customers. The tension in the air grew heavier, though the manager tried to mask his growing unease. Inside the conference room, the former owner gestured for RFK Jr. to take the high chair at the head of the table, while he chose an ordinary chair to sit on. This unusual gesture caught the workers' attention, and confusion spread across the room. Whispers filled the air as they leaned toward each other, exchanging hushed speculations. The former owner rose to his feet, raising a hand to silence the murmurs. "I apologize for calling this meeting on such short notice," he began, his tone calm yet firm. "I will keep this brief." He turned toward RFK Jr. and gestured in his direction. "This," he announced, "is your new boss. I have sold the restaurant, and as of today he owns it entirely, 100%. Gasps and widened eyes rippled through the room. The staff exchanged looks of shock and uncertainty, trying to process the news. The former owner continued, "I want to thank each of you for your cooperation and dedication during my time here. You have been an excellent team. Now, I hope you will extend the same support and commitment to him." With that, he nodded politely to RFK Jr., then turned and walked out of the room without waiting for any questions or comments. The workers sat in stunned silence, their eyes shifting between RFK Jr. and the now vacant doorway. Some of the employees who had witnessed the events of the previous day glanced nervously at the manager, curious about how he was holding up. His head hung low, and his hands trembled visibly. Thoughts of losing his job flooded his mind. His worries turned to his wife and their newborn baby, only 2 weeks old. RFK Jr. rose and introduced himself to the staff. Turning to the manager, he said, "We met yesterday, and I believe it didn't go well between the two of us." The manager stood shakily, his fear evident. "I deeply regret the way I treated you yesterday," he stammered. "Please forgive me. I have a wife and a newborn baby. If I lose my job now, It will be very difficult for my family. RFK Jr.'s expression softened. Your future here will depend on how you conduct yourself moving forward, he said firmly. Leadership isn't about tearing down people you disagree with. Yesterday is in the past. Let's focus on the future, and part of that means you need to change your attitude and the way you treat others. The manager bowed deeply. I will, sir. I promise to work on my behavior, and I'll even see a counselor if necessary. RFK Jr. nodded and continued addressing the room. The reason I bought this restaurant isn't to chase profits. My vision is to create a place that serves healthy food for the American people. And I believe it's possible. For too long, greed has blinded many in the food industry, leading them to prioritize money over people's health, even the health of children. This isn't just wrong, it's evil. I can't do this alone, though. I need your support to achieve this vision. Who's with me? Every hand in the room shot up, including the manager's. An elderly woman stood, her voice trembling with emotion. This is what I've prayed for all my life, she said, tears brimming in her eyes. I've worked in countless restaurants and food corporations, and the focus has always been on profits. Never once have I heard an owner prioritize the health and safety of their customers. I can assure you, there are ingredients in many foods that are outright harmful. Each time I pointed them out, I was either ignored or fired. To see someone care about this, it gives me hope. Bobby smiled and thanked her. Together, we'll create a model that other restaurants across America can follow, ensuring healthy food for everyone. And we're starting that journey today. The meeting ended with a renewed sense of purpose among the staff. RFK Jr. immediately requested a complete list of all the ingredients used in the restaurant's dishes. His chemists and food technologists later arrived to collect samples of every item for thorough analysis. Before leaving, RFK Jr. held a private meeting with the manager. He reassured him, saying, "You have nothing to fear. I don't intend to punish you for the past. But I do expect you to learn from this and strive to improve. Change is possible if you're willing to work for it." The manager, visibly relieved, promised to turn over a new leaf. The manager was genuinely moved by RFK Jr.'s words and resolved to change his ways. Reflecting on the encounter, he realized that if he had been in RFK Jr.'s position and faced such disrespect, he wouldn't have hesitated to fire the offender. This realization deepened his gratitude and strengthened his commitment to becoming a better leader. From that day on, his attitude began to shift. He greeted his workers warmly, often with a smile. Even when mistakes were made, he corrected them with kindness instead of harsh words. One busy afternoon, the dishwashing area was overwhelmed with dirty plates, and demand in the dining hall was high. In the past, the manager would have stormed in, shouting and hurling insults at the dishwasher. But this time, he quietly rolled up his sleeves and joined the overwhelmed worker, scrubbing dishes alongside her. The gesture deeply touched the dishwasher's heart, inspiring a newfound respect for the manager. Her admiration spread to others in the restaurant as well. The workers began to appreciate his leadership, feeling comfortable approaching him to discuss their concerns. As his relationships with the staff improved, the manager himself started to enjoy his work more. The once tense environment had transformed into one filled with mutual respect and camaraderie. His team felt valued, and the restaurant thrived under the harmony they built together. Meanwhile, the RFK Jr. team of food scientists and chemists worked tirelessly on the food samples. After a month of rigorous testing, the results were finally ready, and they were shocking. Many of the substances found in the restaurant's food were harmful, particularly preservatives, artificial sweeteners, and coloring agents. To make matters worse, several ingredients not listed in the official records were discovered. These unlisted additives were not only unnecessary but also toxic to human health. RFK Jr. was momentarily enraged upon seeing the report, but he quickly calmed himself and resolved to turn this revelation into a catalyst for change. He called an urgent staff meeting at the restaurant, where the findings were shared. Together, they made the collective decision to eliminate every harmful ingredient, whether it was an additive, preservative, or even a cooking oil that turned unhealthy when deep-fried. The overhaul was extensive. Every ingredient was scrutinized, and any substance that posed a health risk was replaced with safer alternatives. Even though some healthy substitutions made the food less sweet, the team found ways to make the meals taste even better using natural flavors. These changes came at a slightly higher cost, but it was a price RFK Jr. was willing to pay for the health of their customers. Initially, a few regular patrons noticed the difference and voiced their complaints. However, when the reasons for the changes were explained, emphasizing the restaurant's commitment to health and safety, they not only appreciated the effort but also began introducing their friends and family to the revamped menu. The restaurant flourished under this new approach, earning widespread praise for prioritizing health over profits. Encouraged by the success, RFK Jr. launched a broader campaign to tackle harmful substances in the American diet. He expanded his efforts beyond the restaurant, targeting large food corporations and advocating for stricter regulations. His mission wasn't just about one establishment. It was about creating a nationwide movement to ensure that the food Americans consumed was safe, wholesome, and nourishing. Under RFK Jr.'s leadership, the restaurant became a beacon of hope, inspiring other establishments and companies to follow suit. What began as a single act of change had now sparked a revolution in the food industry, one that promised a healthier future for all. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to support the channel. Your help means so much.